Most people fail in business not because they're bad at it, but because no one really explains what a business is supposed to do. Okay. This video today is going to be a little bit different than my normal videos, and most likely very different from the videos that you see online all the time, right? Let me kind of establish the market in which entrepreneurs and motivational speakers, they always talk about the hustle, right? The constant grind, the this, the that, right? As much as you need that, and I 100% support that, and I fall victim to watching the same videos too. That's what you want, but there's more to it, okay? So, with a business, a lot of people start a business because they want to feel free, they want more money, they want to escape, or they want to follow their passion. But motivation is not the same thing as a function, okay? When you wake up in the morning, right? Do you really want to get out of bed, or do you know you need to get out of bed? That difference is crucial, okay? Because most people, they wake up and they're like, man, come on, 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes, that's it, just five. But that doesn't do anything for you. Does that make sense? Because if you wake up that 5 extra minutes, that's 5 extra minutes that you could be doing something else, okay? So that's something I see a lot with, uh, entrepreneurs and business owners and even, store managers a lot of the times. You know what I mean? They take on this responsibility but don't understand what business is actually about. Business is not about, showing up, loving your job, and leaving. Okay? Business is about doing the hard shit for the fact that it's hard. A lot of people don't understand that. And I mean, I'm assuming that you at home, you don't understand that you show up to a business to solve someone else's problem. That's the key of it all. That is the secret, okay? If you can solve someone else's business, it's profitable. Or sorry, if you can solve someone else's problem, it's profitable, okay? A business solely exists to serve a purpose first, and then fulfillment comes later, right? You got to think Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, right? All these different people, all these rich people, okay? They started a company to solve a problem. Jeff Bezos, he started a company so that way people didn't have to leave their houses to go shopping. He didn't get fulfillment until he was way out of that, until he was spending so much time doing nothing because he had already done that. I see a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners who want that fulfillment right away. They want to they want to take that vacation because they got a little bit extra money in their pocket, right? That's not what you should be doing. You got to reinvest that money into your business so that way you can make it grow again. Okay? Just in the same way that businesses need to trust marketers with the exact same thing. Okay? If a business were to just take that money that they made and run with it and go to the Bahamas, okay, instead of investing it in themselves, then that money gets spent a lot quicker than making it back. I know it might sound complicated, but it's really not. If I gave you $10 and you went with that $10 to go to a gas station and buy an energy drink, great, $10 was spent. However, if you put that $10 into a savings account or into various different things, okay, you spent $10 and you built some kind of energy brand, you bought a domain for an energy brand. Well, now you took that $10 and made something out of it comparatively to spending that $10 and spending it. Okay? The vague problems create weak businesses. Okay? So this is kind of going into the target market area, right? You got weak problems. So, let's take a painter, for instance. If a painter is going to go out and say, I am going to go after everybody who owns a home. Okay, well, that's a big target market. I mean, there's people who live low income, there's people that live high income, there's people that live with kids, dogs, live with parents, live with all these different people, a lot of people, different people own homes. That's not a good business. That's not a good business model because now you're going after all of these different people, okay? However, if you solve a specific problem for this group of people, now you're successful. Now you're successful because you were able to solve a specific problem for a specific type of person, and now that is your market. Now that is where you succeed exponentially. That is where, if you were to tackle that subject, you would be able to have all that fulfillment. You would be able to go in there and do the work that's needed to be done and then take the time off. Okay? You'd be able to do all of these extra things. You'd be able to gain back that fulfillment. Everybody is not a customer. Specific people are customers, okay? That's why it's called target market. Target markets are designed for specific groups of people, okay? When businesses ask, like when you sign up with things, right? Businesses sometimes will ask, what's your gender? What's your age? What's your race? What's this? What's that? It's because as much as people don't want to be put in categories, we are put in categories. Because now, if 35-year-old white males are our primary targets, okay, that's where we're reaching the best. Well, now we have a demographic. Now we know that we are more suitable to work with 35-year-old white males. Just the way it is. It's the way the world works, okay? Comparatively to a beauty brand, right? You sell makeup. Awesome. Well, men probably aren't your target market, okay? Maybe some of them, but men most likely aren't, okay? You're targeting women. Okay, so now you got to decide, are we going to be targeting teenagers? Are we going to be targeting 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds? Or are we going to be targeting, older people? And then going off of that, now you build your brand from that, okay? You build your brand so that way it follows those consecutive target markets. You shouldn't frame profit as money. That's another thing I see a lot of people do. As soon as they get that first check, they're like, bam, I got to spend it. I got to spend it, right? I got to spend that money so that way I can have the nice car. I can have the nice house. I can do this. I can do that. I can do this. I can do that. Frame profit as feedback for solving a problem. If you get paid a lot, then you know that it worked. Your product, your service solved a problem for that specific target market. That's how you should be framing everything. I am going to talk here for a second about people who do follow their passion, their motivation, all of these different things that I mentioned in the beginning of this video. People who do that, I'm not saying are wrong. However, me, myself, when I was in high school, I wanted to become a film director. That was what I wanted to do, man. I was in love with stories. I was in love with movies. And I'm not saying that film directing is a bad career. It's a very niche career. You're not really solving a problem for anybody because at the end of the day, most people can make movies. I'm not saying that there's not a skill to it or a technique to it or, anything like that. However, what I am saying is less people are going to pay for a movie over food, over getting their water fixed, over electrician or electricity, all of these different things. There's not much of a market there, okay? So that's where we see all these people who follow their passions, right? When you look at the big billionaires, right? I don't feel like Jeff Bezos is really into Amazon. He's into Amazon because it's his company. He's into Amazon because it's made him a lot of money and he's built it from the ground up. But he is not like, yay, I get to sell people stuff online. That is what I always dreamed of doing ever since I was a 5-year-old boy. That is what I wanted to do. No, most likely not. Okay? Now, I'm not saying you can't have fun with your business, but that's where the passion comes in. Okay? I loved making films. I loved the idea of storytelling and doing all of these different things. And now look at what I'm doing. Yes, I have a brand that is not about that. I have a company that is not about that. But I still found a way to include my passion into my actual working life. Okay. So what you don't want to rely on is your passion or your energy or your motivation. You want to rely on your discipline. You want to rely on the fact that you have to wake up in the morning, and whether you want to hit the snooze button or not, you got to get up. You got to get up. So that way you can do the things that you need to do. So that way you can get the things done that you need to get done. That is what it's about. Over anything else, you need to solve a problem, get it done, and then be fulfilled. That's the order. I have nothing else really to say about that. Disappointment comes from misunderstanding what a business is going to be about, okay? I've worked for companies in which I thought it was going to be a grand and glorious thing, and it didn't turn out. It's all right. It's not on them. It's not on me. It's just, it wasn't for me, right? You need to know that, okay? You need to know before you start a business that this is what is going into it. This is what you need to do to make that happen. You know what I mean? I knew when I started this company that I knew I was going to have to make content. I knew I was going to have to market myself. I knew I was going to have to market other people. But I knew that going into it, and so I was okay with doing that because I loved it. Because I want to see a business succeed. I want to see a business, fall and get back up and do everything that they need to do. I love that. Okay. So instead of being motivated, instead of being, passioned by whatever you're doing, I want you to take a second and think about being disciplined. Being disciplined to do the things that you might have not wanted to do when you were 5 years old. However, you know that it's going to solve a specific problem for other people. That's all I have to say, okay? You guys have a wonderful day. You have a Merry Christmas, and I will see you on the next one.